Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Meera ma'am, for the kind introduction. So the theme of my paper is Ramayana, and the title is Pollock's Irresponsible versus Valmiki's Plausible Ramayana. And the objective is to examine the framework Sheldon Pollock uses to criticize Ramayana, and then to challenge them in the light of scientific, historical, and literary facts. So one of the things is that why should we have a Purva Paksha? And the reason is that the way these three objects are shown, anyone would conclude that all of them are circles. But if you try to look at it from different dimension, then these can be three different objects. So this is very important that instead of just relying on what Pollock is trying to say, we try to present or try to look at the text. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. So this is what I have actually tried to look at the text from different angles and see whether it's true or not. What Pollock is claiming is true or not. So the outline is that I would try to one by one look at the frameworks Pollock uses, because it's all very interrelated, and then actually kind of put my point of view, and then at last we'll conclude. So this is how Pollock's framework is based. So which is basically the chronology of the text, the free will of the characters, the Brahmin supremacy, the divine demonic construct, and the Indian kingship. And if you see, they are very interrelated. So at some point, he will say that it's all because of the Brahmin supremacy that we have the divine demonic construct, and it's because of this a divine king has absolute rule over the state. And then he would also use the chronology to fit that how this text has been used to control the masses or to enrage people and be more kind of outrageous to the people who have come from outside. And free will is something he will extensively use to belittle the characters and then compare them with the Greek characters that we have read about. So, and then the crux will come that Ramayana is irresponsible. So I have tried using circles for Pollock's vision and what he's trying to say. So he writes that the characters in Ramayana do not hold a position to do anything, and it's like everything in their life has been already decided, and there is no way that they can ever come out of it, and therefore justice never enters the picture. This is what his claim is that everything is so mechanical, and there is no way that people can move around like the way they do it in Greek mythology. And so this is a very typical version of Ramayana that he seems to perceive. But free will is something very, 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 very important for in quantum physics, where we study free will, and we are still trying to understand. So free will is something which we think we have it, but we cannot define it. And in our daily life, we comprehend it as the power to make one's own choices. And why it is difficult to define free will is because it incorporates two opposite notions. One is freedom, and the other is control. So obviously, if you have freedom to do something, then whether you can really do that or not. And if you cannot do that, then you must have a control and see whether you have a higher ambition or there is a higher goal to do or not. So this is what free will looks from a philosophical perspective. And from a physics point of view, we kind of understand free will as something which is very random, and it cannot be predicted, which means that it cannot be fatalistic or deterministic. So that would mean that a drunkard who starts from some place would just make some random walks and end up just falling somewhere. Whether this entails freedom to him or free will to him, like recent researches in quantum physics tell that randomness and determinism both are, both are incompatible with free will. So, and what the only possible solution to understand free will before we can use it to suit our objective is to define free will relative to a theory without committing ourselves to the overall or its ultimate nature. And I will use this concept, which is meta-theoric, to challenge Pollock's argument that Rama is an exemplar of fatalistic thinking for Hindus. And in the Indian value system, obedience towards one father is not understood as a lack of free will. Instead, it is taken as a token of respect. And in Valmiki Ramayana, the banishment was for Rama alone, and it is Sita who has exercised her free will to accompany him to the forest. But Pollock, again, he just sidelines that any of the characters have the free will, and when the second time, when Sita chose not to return to her father, despite the injustice, Pollock just sidelines it. It's very selective to prove his point. And now I'll define free will from Kathopanishad. According to the Kathopanishad, human free will is described as the freedom to choose one of the given twofold path, which is prayas, which is called as pleasurable, and the other is shreyas, which is good. In Rama's case, prayas would mean enjoying the rulership of Ayodhya, while shreyas was to follow his father's word. Rama has consistently chosen shreyas over prayas. And prayas doesn't mean that it is bad, but it leads to bondage, while shreyas leads to light. So there can be no, judgment about Rama's free will, because it is opposite to what, or it is not in sync with the Greek characters. And the second one is the construct of divinization and demonization. So Pollock asserts that the divine demonic construct was only to befit the Brahmins, as the only way for divinization of a king is through the yajnas. He declares Valmiki as the supplier of this narrative, and he blames that all of this is because of the Vedas, and Ravana is personified as an evil force. And this is what he basically talks about, that divine demonic construct is already embedded into the Ramayana, and he will always, and this is very, very tactful of him, because he will use this concept to tell that when the Islamic invaders came, this part of Ramayana has been recalled, that the outsiders are demonic and we need to fight them. And this is the only way to arouse the kings and fight them. And he has completely sidelined the view of the traditional scholars that Ravana was a multifaceted genius. He was literally scholar, and he himself was an exponent of Vedas and a gifted Veena maestro. And even the text also says about this. In the Sundarakanda, Valmiki explicitly writes that Hanumana heard Vedic sounds early in the morning, and Rakshasas well versed in 6 parts of the Vedas, and those who performed excellent sacrifices. So this is one way, I feel, is a strong point to make, where he is blaming that a divine king this demonization is as per the Vedas. And it's mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana, 5th Kanda, 18th chapter, 2nd verse. Thereafter, it also talks about Ravana's being interested in music, and various auspicious instruments were used. And one more thing, what Pollock has sidelined is that India is not a dead country, it's a living culture. And he has not even taken into account that what and how people take Ravana into their life. And just like Rama, Ravana has also got dedicated temples for him. It's also mentioned in the Ellora caves. And there is a place in Kanpur where devotees would be praying for Ravana's welfare. So as such, Ravana is not a personification of evil. And also there's a sect which regards Ravana as an intellectual and stresses that his positive side also must be highlighted. So to sum it all, Ravana is just an extraordinary talent who has gone awry, and it's not that he should be blamed for everything that would have happened in the due course of time. Now I'll come to the Indian kingship. So Pollock asserts that all of these dharma shastras were not applicable to divine kings. It will only be applicable to the mortal kings. And in this case, in this divine king is Rama, and he can do whatever he wants, and this process of Vedic tradition makes him a despot. Whereas, this is what he presents. Now I'll cite textual evidence to refute Sheldon Pollock's claim on the three levels. First one is that the kingship of a mortal king, and that is mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana. In Balakanda 7.1, the truthful and the upright characters of the political ministers of Dashratha, a mortal king, are portrayed, who makes the rulership meaningful with the virtuous, skillful, and efficient admiration. And the ministers for the great soul from Ikshvaku kings of Emperor Dashratha are epitomized ones of their tactfulness, and are always obliged to undertake the welfare activities of the king. So this is something that a king was not a despot. He used to consult, as he has divided the kings into three categories: is the mortal, divine, and demonic. And the next one is the kingship of a divine king. In Valmiki Ramayana, Rama adhered the principles of state administration. In Ayodhya Kanda, Rama inquires of Bharata and instructs him on the final points of art of administration. This is mentioned in 2.11217. This address highlights the duties of and responsibilities of a kingship, covering all aspects and the entire range of administration in which a king should attain proficiency if he is really concerned with the happiness and welfare of his subjects. Now I'll come to the kingship of a demonic king, which is Ravana in this case. So in the Yuddha Kanda, Ravana calls a meeting of his ministers and invites suggestions from them in view of the latest situation of a probable attack of Rama and his army on the city of Lanka. He emphasizes the importance of consultation with the ministers and requests them to arrive at a well thought out rightful action. So this proves that this textual evidence proves that there's a consistent view of the Indian kingship, and Pollock's claim that a divine king does not have to abide by the rules of Dharma Shastra is on thin ice. Now I'll talk about Ramayana as an atrocity literature. This is actually very funny to read. It's like, as Sheldon Pollock claims, that the Islamic rulers took control of the temple and intended to honor the birthplace of Rama, whom the Hindus greatly worship. And this is what outraged the Hindus. He also argues that Hindu kings used Ramayana to arouse Hindus and demonize Muslim invaders from 12th to the 16th century. Now I'll cite some literary evidences to refute Pollock's view. So Pollock is a very tactful guy. He will be very selective while writing his works, and he has actually completely ignored that it was just not for looting that the Islamic invaders came. They desecrated the temples. So it was, and this is not even mentioned, not even talked about. So I will cite some Islamic historians who are talking about what would have happened, what has happened in this course of time. And this is like a bit, I have some time now? Okay.
About 7 minutes.
7, okay. So this states that all the temples were desecrated, and loots and plunders have happened. And this has been mentioned not in only by one historian. It has been done by Tariq-e Khan Jahan Lodi and in Badshah Nama, and even in the script, even in Sikh scriptures like Pothi Janam Sakhi. And Guru Nanak was the contemporary of Babur, so he has accounted for whatever loots and plunders have happened. And there are more than a dozen such literary records to prove that the Islamic invaders were not benevolent to the indigenous population. Their rule was nothing but barbaric, which witnessed the greatest destruction of Hindu temples, forcible conversions, and massacres in the Indian history. However, according to Sheldon Pollock, it is Ramayana and its embedded system which is responsible for the demonization of Islamic invaders, and their rule was not barbaric. So now if you see, he he would just present you one side, which is like, Ramayana is irresponsible by selectively quoting things. And if you look into some other dimension, and if you look through the literary records, you will find that this no way even is comparable to the things that have happened in the history. What I would like to conclude is that I have never thought Ramayana as something socially oppressive or irresponsible. Instead, I thought the opposite. This is one thing which has united us from north to south, from east to west, and we are all connected to each other through this. And I feel that it is very important to study Pollock's work in the light of new discoveries and new methodologies, and the unification of all like-minded scholars for this grand cause. There are more things I wanted to add, but I think we have short of time. So,
I think it would be instructive to deeply compare the structure of the Greek epic with Ramayana.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you also look at the Greek epic, for instance, the Iliad, there also, clearly the characters who are doing the fighting have plenty of free will.
Yeah.
However, their fates are ultimately decided by the assembly of gods in Olympus, where Hera is on the side of the Trojans and the rest of them are on the side of the Greeks. Okay, and so the battle goes back and forth based on decisions taken there. So this free will is not directly a method, an idea of people exerting their choice. It is also exerting their choice and the influence of circumstances. So I think if you took a more nuanced approach to this and actively compared the Greek and the Indian things, you will find lots of parallels, which I think will buttress the case that free will is not free will in the modern post-industrial sense.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
To help me, you can do two things. You can go to the subscribe button on my YouTube and subscribe. We need more subscribers there. Secondly, I get lots of emails on people saying, how do we donate? How can we help you? You go to rajivmalhotra.com or you go to infinityfoundation.com and you can hit the donate button. You can donate in dollars. There are different ways mentioned. If you want to donate in rupees, there is a column called Infinity Foundation India, and you click that and there are instructions on how you can donate in India.